Reacting to our 2023 F1 World Championship predictions. We are here today to reflect on our full Drivers' Championship predictions that we made all the way back in February, I want to say.
It was after testing, February,
after testing, but before any running. And we went all the way from 20th to 1st. And we thought we were wheel knowledging. And we're about to find out exactly how much we wheel knowledged.
Spoiler alert, it's difficult.
So anyway, how we're going to do this to make it a little bit more fun as well is that we're going to give points out to either myself or Tommy, depending on how we do. So it will be 2 points if we get the prediction bang on, so this the right position. 1 point for who gets the closest between us. And then we also get 1 point if it's a draw between us. So that's how we'll sort of divide the points up. So I'm very excited to see, because I actually have no idea who has won this. So let's find out. Starting with P22, which is Nick de Vries, with a massive 0 points. Now, I predicted P19. I didn't think he was going to do that well this year. That's why I predicted Daniel Ricciardo to replace him as one of my crazy predictions. And that was... when did I say that? I can't remember when I actually
at the start of the season, before we'd even done any testing or anything. Yeah,
goated, that was.
That was good.
But I thought P19, there must be someone, a little Logie bear that might finish behind him. I didn't expect there to be 22 drivers.
No, I went for P17, which is probably one of the furthest predictions off I am.
Oh,
even into I imagine, because that's a long way off. Although, to be fair, I guess it's because there's 2 extra drivers and you finish way down the order. But I am stupid, because I'm going to throw him under the bus right here. I got baited by a video that I saw from Will Buxton where he was gassing up Nick de Vries, saying how he's so good and so good at developing cars and things like that, and he put so much work ethic in. And I watched that video just before we did the predictions and changed Yuki and de Vries the other way around.
So I get a point though. 1-0 to me.
You do, 1-0.
21st position was Logan Sargent with a whopping 1 single point. And I went for P20 because, again, I thought there was going to be 20 drivers this year, not 22. I feel like that's right in a lot of ways, because I thought it was going to be... Well, actually, no, technically Logan wasn't last due to Nick de Vries, but I guess he's the last in terms of full season...
Full-time
attendees.
Yeah, I guess.
But yes, P20, not sad about it, because I feel like I was right.
Yes, I also went P20, no surprise at all, based on my predictions of the season. Although, I guess you could argue that he did worse than I expected, because I was only saying P20 because I thought Williams were going to be far and away the worst car. And I think it's clear from the season and how well Alex did that is not the case. But he still didn't score many points.
2-1 to me. P20, a driver that neither of us predicted because neither of us thought he would be in Formula 1. Liam Lawson, who scored 2 points, which is not applicable, but just want to say congratulations to Liam to making it into the top 20, beating 2 drivers in the Drivers' Championship, despite only doing a handful of races. So yes, well done, Liam.
Well done, Liam, indeed.
P19, Kevin Magnuson with a whopping 3 points. I went for P16. I thought that it was going to go a lot better for Haas than it did. And yeah, I thought P16 was maybe a little bit harsh. Could have a few Haas worldies, especially at the start of the year. That's when we, are used to Haas coming out the blocks firing and then having no money to do anything else after the start of the season. But no, terrible. P19.
I went for P14. I was even more generous. And I thought something similar, that Haas would be a better car. They did actually look all right in pre-season testing, but we didn't know in pre-season testing that they couldn't do more than 2 racing laps without destroying their tyres.
And I take a really healthy 3-1 lead after P19. P18 was Zhou Guanyu with 6 points. And I went for P14 as my prediction. I thought Alfa Romeo would be, again, better than they were. I thought Zhou was going to be better than he was. But instead, I think we literally saw, similar to the Haas and how many laps the tyres lasted on that car, the amount of racing laps we actually saw of Zhou the entire season. We hardly ever saw him actually racing. The Alfa Romeo boys lost in transmission, it seems. But yes, 14th, and Joe let me down.
I went for slightly lower, P15. So 1 point. I'm back in the race. I didn't expect Alfa Romeo to be any good. I didn't expect them to be this bad, though. They, of course, did very well in the championship previous year. But yeah, Joe in particular, like you say, was just so anonymous the whole year.
You nipped a point. Congratulations, Tommy. 3-2. P17, Daniel Ricciardo. Again, another driver that, well, actually I predicted, but we didn't throw into this because we were just predicting the drivers that were supposed to have full-time seats. But he finished with 6 points as well. So great to see Danny Ric back on the calendar, on the racing circuit. You know, he's back in Formula One. Didn't expect it to be so early, but of course, Red Bull doing Red Bull things and throwing one of their drivers to the Sharks, and we're like, Danny Ric, come back. And then obviously he injured himself, then Liam Lawson came in, then Danny Ric came back again. But yes, it's great to see Danny back. And P17, had he started at the start of the year, would I have put him 17th? Probably not. I would have been on the hype train at that point.
Yes, you got to think, if Daniel Ricciardo had done the whole year, I think he would have been there or thereabouts with Tsunoda. Maybe his experience puts him a little bit higher than Tsunoda and bags a few more points, but it's very close. So looking forward to seeing what he can do next year.
P16, Nico Hulkenberg with 9 points, and I predicted him P15 because I thought Haas and Nico Hulkenberg were going to be okay, but still reasonably washed. And Nico delivered that. I feel like 16th in the Drivers' Championship is incredibly harsh for Nico, considering a lot of his qualifying performances over the year. But as we mentioned previously in our podcast, if it had ended on a Saturday, Haas would have had a lot of points. But that's not how it works. And Charles Leclerc would have had 5 wins this year as well. So Nico, 16th, and I went for P15. So I'm quite happy with how close I was with that.
Clearly, I thought points were given out for Saturday because I predicted him P12.
You were on the whole train. I remember.
Because I thought Haas would do exactly what we were saying before with K-Mag, come out the blocks firing. And I thought Hulkenberg, which to be fair, he did, would smash K-Mag. And be able to deliver points, but that car was never there to do it, other than one chaotic end to the Australian Grand Prix and of course the sprint race, which everyone pitted in anyway.
4-2 to Gallagher versus Bellingham as we go to P15. Valtteri Bottas with 10 points. And speaking of hype trains, I was on a Bottas hype train and I was feeling so smug after Bahrain. I was like, yeah, Tommy, how dare you disrespect the GOAT that is Valtteri Bottas? And then from there on, he didn't score hardly any points whatsoever in the rest of the season. But yes, 10th did not happen.
Yeah, I think you owe me an apology as well, because I got absolutely roasted for picking him P16, which was only 1 away. Annoyingly, if I'd backed him over Joe, I would have got it bang on. I wasn't on the Alpha hype train. I thought they were going to struggle and I just couldn't see them improving. And that is exactly what happened. They were absolutely awful by the end of the year.
4-3 then. P14. Yuki Tsunoda with 17 points. I predicted him P17. I didn't believe in the Yuki AlphaTauri combination, mainly more of the AlphaTauri. I just thought it would be pretty terrible, and I thought Yuki would do a little bit better than Nick de Vries, the only person on this podcast that thought Yuki would do better than Nick de Vries. It wasn't very close, but
I went for P18 because I'm an idiot.
I'm glad you got the cue there. Well done.
To be fair, I'm not 100% sure where Yuki was in the championship table, but he was languishing around 17th, 16th, I think, towards the end, because of course they didn't score many points at all until right at the end, and Yuki was there banging in P11 after P11, and we're thinking this guy's having quite a good season and not scoring any points. So he was actually quite low down the table, but then a few good results at the end shot him all the way up to P14.
Fair. P13, Alex Albon scoring 27 points, and he really did say to us, how dare you not believe in me? Because I went for 18th position. Which, you think 5 places out, that's a long way. Surely Tommy's not going to be further away than 5 places. Isn't that right, Tommy?
I went for P19 for Alex Albon. I really did think Williams were going to be, well, yeah, the worst car by a considerable margin. And this was not me disrespecting Alex Albon. I guess it maybe was, thinking he couldn't deliver in a rubbish car. But I don't think that car is rubbish. And that's why I'm kind of like, Logan did worse than I predicted, because he has actually delivered that kind of result in a car which Alex has proved is pretty decent now. But I'm very glad to see it. Yeah, it's really good that Alex has turned his season around, and we'll see what Williams can do. Maybe they are on the way up with the James Vowles hype train, and they're going to be even better next year. Who knows?
Okay, 6-3. The gap is extending as we go to P12. Esteban Ocon with 58 points. I predicted him P9. I thought Esti Bestie was going to have a better year when it comes to actual point scoring accomplishments. You know, he occasionally pops up on the podium, has a little big points haul here and there, but I don't feel too bad because Tommy went even worse.
I did, and by even worse, I went even better for Esti Bestie.
True.
And put him P8. And the logic behind that was, of course, that Alpine actually looked pretty good after pre-season testing, and he had a fantastic year the year before. Of course, he finished ahead of Fernando Alonso, his teammate. You know, I thought Esti Bestie would be on a high, and Alpine were looking very good. They were obviously looked quicker than McLaren when McLaren were in their terrible phase, but then as soon as McLaren got better, they just were in absolute no man's land, where they were just, they didn't have anyone to race, and they just were the definition of mid.
Okay, 7-3 now.
Oh, God.
Getting some serious daylight between the two of us here. P11, Pierre Gasly with 62 points. And here we go, because Matt Gallagher comes in with P11. Yes, yeah. It's funny because I predicted P11 for Gasly, but I predicted P9 for Ocon, thinking that Gasly would do worse than Ocon, and in fact it was the other way around, and I've somehow managed to accidentally fall upon the correct prediction for Pierre Gasly. So that takes me to 9 points now, Tommy. What did you go for?
I did exactly the same thing. I went for P11, and it is exactly the same reasoning, where I thought Alpine would be pretty good and Gasly would flop, and then somehow he's beaten his teammate, and it's got my prediction in. So thank you, Gasly, for proving me wrong and finishing P11.
I was going to say it takes me to 9 points. It doesn't. If it's a draw, we get 1 point each, right?
2 points each, because it's a draw. It's a draw, but we both got it bang on. So it's
okay,
2
I didn't
points
say
each.
that at the top of the show, though, Tommy. That's confusing
fine.
for people carrying along. Okay, all right, 9-5 then. All right, here we go. P10, Lance Stroll with 74 points. I went for P13, which I felt like I was onto something there. And yeah, you know, he got a few points finishes towards the end of the year. I feel like I might have been still on for something around that. But instead, Lance decided to actually turn up to work sometimes and scored some points. And we also did not predict the Aston Martin to be anywhere near as quick as it was.
I predicted P10. Get in. Finally, back in the game. I got it spot on, really, because I said the Aston Martin would be good, but Lance Stroll would be Lance Stroll. And that's why it'd be 10th, which is exactly what happened in the season.
9-7 then. Going to P9, Oscarpiastri. 97 points for Oscarpiastri. I predicted him P12, which I feel disgusted about because I was actually hyping him up, going, look, he is going to be a talent. He's going to be really quick. I believe in Oscar coming into this rookie season. And to be honest with you, again, how McLaren came out the blocks, I probably felt like P12 was too high, considering how slow they were at the start of the year. But then by the end, they were like, no, we're going to challenge for wins, because that's just McLaren, I think, pretty much 2 years in a row in terms of that trajectory of slow at the start and then getting quicker. What a rookie season for Oscar, and I'm glad that he's got higher than what I predicted.
I went for P13, so one lower. And yes, that logic was because McLaren had an absolute stinker in pre-season testing as well. They looked awful. I don't think anyone apart from Mika Hakkinen could have predicted the resurgence that McLaren had, because it was literally like from back markers to Lando Norris taking the lead at the British Grand Prix. Like, how on earth did that happen? I still don't really understand. But yeah, Oscar had a great season, really. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do next year.
He's a race winner.
Sure is.
P9 in the championship. 10-7. I am now in the lead, 3 points. As we go to P8, George Russell with a whopping 175 points. A big chasm of points between Russell and Piastri from P8 into P9. I predicted P6. I expected Mercedes to be a little bit better than they were. Well, actually, no. I think it was more I expected George to do a little bit better than perhaps he did, especially coming off the back of last year and just generally scoring a lot of points. But this year was a step down, I think, in some ways. And P8 sort of showcases that. And my prediction of P6 did not pay off.
I also went for P6. My logic for this prediction of P6 was that I thought Ferrari and Mercedes were going to be second and third best teams, which they were, and very close between the two of them. So I got that right, but I didn't get right.
You're not getting any points for that, mate. Sorry.
No,
mate.
I'm not trying to claim them, don't worry.
I didn't know if you were teeing yourself up there. Here we go.
But no, George, I didn't expect him to have as bad of a season as he had. I mean, you look at the points, actually, it's not a million miles away from that big group of four drivers that were battling out for P4 in the title in the end. But by his high standards, it wasn't the greatest of seasons.
Okay, it's 11-8 then, as we go to P7. Carlos Sainz with 200 points. And I predicted Carlos P4 in the championship. I was very much sipping on that Ferrari hype P2 fastest car, or second fastest car, and they were in some ways. But Carlos was just on the wrong end. And he was P4 going into Abu Dhabi, and this would have been a sensational little prediction. But instead it's P7 and it looks terrible.
I went for P5, so just one lower, and is closer. It's actually crazy how close P7, 6, 5 and 4 are in the championship. 6 points separating 4, and how it changed so much. Like you say, like Carlos was leading that gaggle of cars going into that final bit, but had a absolutely shocking end to the season and dropped all the way down to 7th.
Okay, it is 11-9 though. It doesn't matter, you didn't get it right because you close the gap, Tommy, as we go to P6. Lando Norris with 205 points. I predicted him P8. Shocking, really. I can't believe I didn't think McLaren were going to be as good as Lando was as good as he was. But what a season for Lando. Definitely could have secured P4 had there been a few mistakes ironed out in qualifying. But apart from that, unbelievable from him to help thrust McLaren forward. And I went for P8, not thinking that McLaren would be able to be challenging Max Verstappen. And if anything, our hopes were with them towards the end of the season to actually challenge and give us a fight at the front.
Yeah, same. I went for P9, so I predicted that he'd do even worse, which till we got to Austria, I think you'd have safely thought that I'd be getting the points here, but no, their resurgence was unbelievable. Lando was only 2 points, or technically 1, I think, because he would have had most second places. 1 point off finishing P4 in the title and making this prediction look absolutely terrible.
12-9 as we go to P5. Charles Leclerc with 206 points. And I went for P3 because I'm actually looking back at myself and thinking, I'm proud of you, Matt, for not going crazy with this prediction, because I could have been in serious trouble had I been drinking on that delusion potion. But I went for P3 because I genuinely thought that was possible. And Mercedes, especially Hamilton, just delivered so consistently throughout the year. And Ferrari were kind of up and down and sometimes really quick and sometimes terrible in the race. And yeah, Charles Leclerc had a bit of bad luck as well. And he finished P5.
I also went P3 for Charles Leclerc, thinking that, Ferrari would have a very quick car, but not as good as Red Bull, and that's exactly what happened. Of course, they just missed out on P2 in the championship, and Charles had a good season. There were moments where, it looked like Charles was going to finish maybe even 7th in the championship.
He went into Abu Dhabi 7th, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of all changed at the end, and I'm really annoyed because you're getting away 13-10 now.
So 13-10 as we go to P4. Fernando Alonso, also with 206 points. And I predicted him P7. Now, I don't know why I did. I feel like I sort of latched on to your hype at this point. And
remember, we'd had pre-season testing at this point, so we knew Aston were actually really good.
Yeah, I guess that's true. then also there is that doubt in your mind about how true is testing and so on and so forth. And of course, we do our predictions away from each other and we come and record. It's not like we go, oh, so who are you going to put 7th? So yeah, I went with P7. It should have been 6 points away. It was very, very close. But instead, Fernando securing an unbelievable, unfathomable P4 in the Drivers' Championship in a car that finished 7th in the Constructors the previous year. Go on, Fernando. Well done.
I also went for P7 for Fernando Alonso. Couldn't have possibly thought he'd finish higher than that. Of course, like I said, this was after testing. I actually predicted, as we know from our predictions at the start of the year before we saw any testing, and got laughed at for predicting that Alonso would be best of the rest. And this was my I think he would be best of the rest, but my best of the rest was Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes, and then everyone else, and he'd pop it in P7. But no, P4, unbelievable. I know his teammates Lance Stroll, but when it's 5th in the Constructors is damn impressive, and showed that he was, a lot of the time, was just over-delivering in that car, and I think his consistency was the most impressive thing about the year.
14-11 as we head to P3. Tommy needs a miracle. And Lewis Hamilton, 234 points. I predicted P5. Didn't think Mercedes would be as quick as Ferrari. And arguably, I think Hamilton's performances were the difference here rather than the car itself. So yeah, well done, Hamilton. You did better than what I expected.
Same for me, but I did P4. So just one higher. I've got a point. P3 is a fantastic result because I don't think the Mercedes was, even though they finished 2nd in the Constructors, they weren't anywhere near far clear in that Constructors title. And as it's 14-12, I am banking on you predicting Sergio Perez to win the title. Come on, please.
I was about to say that. I was like, with 2 left, have I accidentally put Perez as the World Drivers' Champion and thrown away the easiest victory of my life? Well, let's go to P2. Sergio Perez with 285 points. And yes, I did indeed secure him as runner-up, P2 in the Drivers' Championship, which didn't look like it was potentially going to happen with all of the, qualifying performances. Hamilton closing in. Then, of course, it sort of swung very aggressively after Hamilton got disqualified in Austin, and the dream was over for Hamilton to finish runner-up. But yes, Perez, we've nailed it. P2, and that's a bang-on performance. Has Tommy also gone for Perez P2?
Yes, I have. And our logic was spot on here. After testing, we were all a little bit worried that the Red Bull would be very, 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 very quick. And it sure was, obviously having that record-breaking season where only one other team won a race. And, of course, you'd be absolutely crazy to predict that Perez would beat Max over a championship. But, of course, at the start of the season, there was that talk of, can he do a Rosberg when Max had that failure in Saudi?
That talk. That talk was coming out of your mouth.
That was my pessimistic brain thinking Sergio could just finish 2nd every race and then win the ones that Max retires in and be fine. But instead, he dropped off quite significantly during the season and then had a decent end to easily wrap up P2 in the end. Who's okay, then. One?
Everybody hold on to their horses. Have I accidentally predicted a driver transfer and a new world champion
Nick de Vries
as P1? Yes, maybe. Here we go then. P1, Max Verstappen, 575 points. It's 16-14. And I went for P1, which was bang on. Thank God. I literally came into this thinking, God, did I put Charles Leclerc first? I couldn't remember. And I'm so glad. Well done past me. I'm congratulating myself right now because I knew for these kind of things, I've just got to lock in what I actually think rather than what I really wish for. So yes, P1 Max Verstappen, he is inevitable, hence why I put in P1 as well.
Yeah, I've also gone P1 Max Verstappen. We did a good job, again, to say that we just do our random predictions. We've been very close with all of them this year. That was another close-fought contest.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Well
You've won again. Enjoy the money. You'd have been crazy not to back Max after the end of the year he had, and then it was quite clear from, I know you can't normally tell in testing, but there was a lot of talk from testing that's like, oh, Red Bull are really quick, like really, really quick, which is crazy to think about now. There was that whole Bahrain curse and like, oh, Max has won the first race. No one ever wins the first race and goes on to win the title. But he is inevitable, and he just walked it after that initial, wasn't even a blip, after his pathetic 2 seconds from 4 races, where one was a failure in qualifying and the other was a badly timed safety car. And then it was only Singapore that he didn't win. Easy dub for Max.
Absolutely outrageous from Max. Well done. And an easy dub for me. 18-16 in the end. Never in doubt. So thank you, Tommy. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to our reaction to the 20th to 1st Drivers' Championship predictions. We'll, of course, do it next year as well, see if we can improve on our scores. Hope you're surviving without Formula One. We're trying to, and we'll keep you entertained as much as we possibly can. And we'll see you soon. Bye!
Bye!